after opening up of the economy, we had, number of transactions which were required, the business horizons were expanded, and we had to go for the different transactions beyond the boundaries of the country. So whenever the contract has been entered into through e mode, so there were possibilities that the security or the requirements were not duly met. So one legal framework was required for to support the business transactions with respect to the all the e transaction. So when we talk about the e transaction, so whether you are entering into through email, right, or you enter into electronically on through computer networking system or any other via media, in all the situation there was some requirement that the some legal support or the legal system should be there, which is going to support or recognize these transactions. So whenever we talk about the Information Technology Act, there is, we talk about the emergence of electronic commerce, emergence of internet, which has made it possible to communicate from one place in one country and the other place in the other country. So there, why, whether the particular electronic transaction is valid, under which jurisdiction it will come. So if the contract has been entered into one country, so whether the rule of that particular country will apply or will not apply, where how it is different from the physical contract, all these required the proper existence of the act, and all the requirements have been duly met by the Information Technology Act 2000. Along with the applicability, we also have to understand that under what circumstances IT Act does not apply, these rules are not applicable. So in case of negotiable of we can say execution of a negotiable instrument, the rules will not apply. Even when we are creating a trust under Indian Trust Act, the rules of IT Act will not apply. In case of power of attorney, you cannot, transfer the exercise right or power of attorney to the other person electronically. So there, if we talk about the negotiable instrument, you talk about the any creation of trust, or if we talk about the power of attorney, it cannot happen under the electronically. And similarly, when we talk about the conveyance deed or transfer of immovable property, it cannot be transferred electronically. And the execution of will under Indian Succession Act 1992 is also excluded from the preview of the electronic transaction, and it will not be applicable. So these are the exclusion: negotiable instrument, power of attorney, trust, any will, transfer of immovable property, or any other document or any other area which is, decided by the central government. So, central government is empowered to exclude the particular area by notification in the official gazette. So, this is if notified by central government. So, this will be excluded from the particular domain of the IT Act. Then we have to understand that what do we understand by the digital signature, electronic signature, and what is the authentication of the electronic record. So in this particular case, when we talk about, I think I have opened the wrong document. Let me see. Yeah, digital signatures. So let me tell you about it, that if we talk about the IT Act, in the IT Act, there are certain areas or the certain specific terms which we will have to make ourselves familiar with. Let me tell you the structure of this first, and then we'll discuss about the digital signatures and electronic signatures. Okay. So, when we talk about Information Technology Act, what we all have to cover is that what is the first chapter will talk about the what is the rationale and objectives of introduction of this particular act, right? Second thing, second requirement is the scope of this particular act, to which transaction this particular act will apply, and what will be the exclusions from the same. Why this particular act is needed? So here we can talk about the objectives, we can talk about the essence of the particular act to be introduced. So this can be the, we can say, the first chapter that we have to explain in journal why IT Act is needed. So in the light of having the electronic commerce, having the wider scope of transaction, the support of internet, and the possibility of communication from one area to another area without any domestic or geographical boundaries, the IT Act has played a very important role. So when we talk about the requirement or why the particular act was needed, so there was, it was required that there should be recognition of electronic records. And when we talk about the recognition, so recognition means that the legal recognition. So whenever you are entering into the contract through electronically or by any of the electronic via media, then in that particular case, the electronic records should be recognized, should be accepted. And because when we say Indian Contract Act, we say that there is a promise, and this promise must be fulfilled, and if not fulfilled, if it is in terms of the contract, it must be fulfilled or it must be performed. And if not, then in that case the other person have the right to sue the other party to get it performed or to get compensation for non performance, right? So similarly, if we are entering into the contract electronically, then in that particular case, this electronically entered into contract must be recognized. So when we say that it must be recognized, then the role or the scope of the Information Technology Act 2000 comes into view. Then when we are talking about these Information Technology Act, so there are certain specific terms, or these specific terminologies or terms are defined in the act itself. So in this particular case, as your friends have also discussed, that who is going to be the addressee, who is going to have the access to the information, what will we understand by the computer, what do we understand by the computer network, or who is going to be the addressee, educating officer, certifying authority, all these terminologies or the specific terms we make ourselves familiar with, right? Then after that, the system of the electronic records, or the how the IT Act has worked or has provided a secure system, has come from this aspect, that suppose A is sitting in this particular country and B is sitting in another country. The message is communicated to A by email or electronically, right? Now in this particular case, if we say that if we talk about the electronic record, so there can be certain change, and even some particular item is being sent, or particular rate is sent, or certain terms of condition are being sent. So there is possibility that a person has sent something else and B has received something else. So you must be aware of the activity of the phishing, we must be aware of the activity of the cyber crime, you must be aware of the terms of hacking. So all these things are being possible when we have the system. So there are also ways to disturb that system or to take advantage, undue advantage from the system. So before this particular mail reaches to B, someone in between intervenes, hack, and change the information, right? But in that particular case, then B has accepted that proposal and A has sent that proposal. So, will there be any difficulty? Who is going to be, or have the obligation of the change of information? So, in this particular scenario, when we talk about the role of the IT Act, in this particular case, the secure system is being introduced, and this secured system is being introduced with the help of the creation of the documents, with the help of digital signature. Then we have the certifying authorities who issues the this particular digital signature authorities. Then how these certifying authorities are going to work, who have the right to issue the license, or who have the capability or eligibility to issue the digital signature, etc. So we have the controller of certifying authorities. Then on the above certifying authorities, controller of certifying authorities, there is the power of the central government who can issue or the changes or can take the decision with respect to the system. Other than that, there are certain terms known as the subscriber. Subscriber is a person who needs a digital signature, who has applied the for the digital signature. Then there is, we talk about the educating officer. If there are any kind of dispute, so before going to the appellate tribunal or with the before going to the authorities, we have the spelling. I need to check appellate tribunal. So this is, as a court, we are having the High Court and Supreme Court. Similarly, the tribunal is being introduced for meeting out the special cases in case of the electronic records or any kind of, you can say that if there is a certain kind of problem. Now, first of all, we have to understand the system which is known as the secure system. So, why the IT Act has been introduced? It has been introduced to provide us the secure system. So, secure system means that the computer hardware, the procedure, the software system, which are reasonably secure from unauthorized access or misuse. These provide reasonable level of trust, faith, and reliability in doing the transaction, and reasonably support that which particular system or transaction we wish to do. And also there are generally accepted, we can say, security procedures which are being followed. So here I would like to give you 2 3 pointers on which you can think about. Say you need to transfer money to bank account, and you are entering into the transaction by using your online account, and you're using the NFT. You are required to make payment, through credit card or any other mode when you are doing online shopping or buying any online thing. There can be an example that you need to make a bill payment of your house, of anything, electricity, etc. Now, in this case, if I'm introducing or if I am entering into my online banking, so whether the particular system is secure or not, whether I am entering, making the payment on the bank's website, where bank's app or bank site or not, am I aware whether this particular app or this site is providing the secure system? Or if once I am transferring the money from my account to B's account, so this particular amount will be hacked in between by C and the money never reaches to B. If it happens, is there some authority or some system with the help of which I can, claim back my money, or I can request? So whether there is any system like this exist or not. So when I have to, even I am transferring, I am having using the website of the bank, or I am having the bank app, and I am transferring the money. But still, I want that security, that if the secure system would be there and there are no chances of the money being hacked, then only I am going to use this particular system. If there is no system, there are no government authority, there are no, we can say, backup, or no secure system exist. So, will you be encouraged, or will you feel comfortable in making that payment? No. Another thing, that when I am making any payment through online, through my credit card, debit card, or any money app, for any of the online shopping, so what is the payment gateway? Because when you go to the particular site and you are making the payment, so it will direct you for some payment gateway. So in that scenario, so whether it is taking to me to a right payment gateway, or when the particular transaction from here to here, it's moving to that payment gateway, somewhere fishy payment gateway exists in between, and I have made payment here instead of here. So the literacy or the system generation is there. So whether I have some rule, some place where I can file my request, or there can be, if this particular thing happen, so is there any way to get my money back? If I'm making the bill payment, so how secure the particular site is, whether it is a registered site, it is recognized, this is a secure site or not, all these questions exist. So this is the role of the existence of IT Act, that whenever we are entering into e-transaction, there are thousands of transactions we are entering into the transaction daily. So whether any secure system exists, and if there comes any kind of difficulty, whether we have someone to look upon, or to have the access for our requirement grieves, or for the non performance. You must have very small transaction. All of you must be having the Paytm or MobiKwik, or your Bheem app, or any other payment app in your mobile phone, right? Not major transaction, but at least you get your phone recharged, or you make these small payments through the particular app. At your stage, I can expect this much. So when you have recharged your phone, say for 1000, I have made the payment of 1000 to get my number recharged, right? Right, say any for my cell. Then in that case, the payment is debited from my account, but the minutes or the pack is not credited. So what will be my first option? My first option will be, or first step will be, that I have to keep a record or screenshot of the transaction. I should have the transaction number or the ID. Then in continuation, I must be having some toll-free number, either for that particular app, or say I am using the Vodafone, so I might be having the toll-free number here. So the payment, the problem can be at two ends. That from Paytm, it's showing that payment has been made, but payment has not been sent to the service provider, or the payment has been sent to the service provider, but it has not been, यहाँ पर आपकी payment debit हो गई, but यहाँ पर आपकी credit नहीं हुई. So first of all, we have to see that where is the problem. So in that case, we should have the record of this. So here the role of the IT Act exists, where there is legal recognition to all electronic transactions. So here we say that this talks about the secure system. And when we talk about all the transaction, whether we talk about even nowadays the registration of companies on MCA site, you are making the payment of fee, your university payment fee online. We have received many cases wherein the students have filed a complaint that their fee have been paid twice. Once it has shown that it is not deducted, but when they made the payment again, so it has been deducted twice. So in that particular case, they had to request first to the organization that on this particular account, on this particular name, on this transaction ID, the payment or fee have been made twice. So then they will check the records, and if from same number and with same details twice payment is there, so it will be returned to the student, right? So in this case, it is being recognized, a proper system is there. Similarly, if we talk about other online transaction, so if we talk about the registration of a company, we talk about the any license number, or even when you are talking into entering into the business transactions. So in that particular case, even for specifically for the corporates and all, the digital signatures are mandatory to be obtained. So now what do we understand by the digital signature? This is the second topic. First, we have done the first chapter about the introduction, objectives, what do we understand by the secure system, how the particular IT Act is applicable to the different transaction. The second chapter talks about the digital signature. So when we talk about the digital signature is a type of electronic signature. Electronic signature is a wider term which includes the digital signature in itself. So when we say about the digital signature is, we can say, a form of, it is a asymmetric crypto system based on asymmetric crypto system. It is on the basis of some algorithm where as we talk about the different softwares uses the coded language, and it includes the hash function. Now in this particular digital system, what happens that if A has written a message and this message has been sent to B, this message can be opened by B only when this message is affixed by a digital signature, right? So there is that we talk about, that there is a protection to the document. So in this particular situation, even if there is some phishing or some hacking in between, so even they hack the particular message, they will not be able to encode, or they will not be able to encrypt that message because it is saved with the digital signature. Now, what is the definition of digital signature or how it is being obtained? So we say digital signature is the asymmetric crypto system created with the help of the algorithm and hash function, and where it is generated with the help of the two keys. One is the private key, which is being which is being used to create the message, that is the to in simple language code the message, and there is a public key which is being used to open or decode the message, right? So the person who is creating the message will have the access to the private key. He is required to keep that private key safe, not to be disclosed with anyone else, and in case if it is lost, he is required to maintain or required to communicate to the required authority with respect to the loss of the private key. Public key is given to those person with whom we are dealing, and if we are sending some message, so they can encrypt, and even sometimes the public key is being displayed at the office as well. So it is a combination when we talk about the digital signature. So the adoption of purpose of authenticating a procedure, that authenticating the electronic record by a method, is known as a digital signature. So digital signature, we talk about that these are being obtained by a person. So a subscriber who wants to obtain this digital signature will apply to the certifying authorities. And certifying authority कौन होती है? Certifying authorities वो होती हैं जिनको controller of certifying authority से after complete procedure license मिला होता है digital signature issue करने के लिए, right? So subscriber is the person in whose name digital signature will be issued. Now, when we talk about the use of the digital signature, so in this particular case, already told you that there is the message will be prepared, and by using the hash function, the message will be created, that is, that will be coded. And in this particular situation, the algorithm or the coding will be used, and the digital signature will be attached. And when this is being opened by the public key, so it is verified that the message has been sent by such and such specific person only. So when B is going to open by using decoding the message, then it will be used. One more example I can give here is, for example, you have been issued your mail ID at the college domain base is being created at the rate sggScc.ac.in. So whatever is your name or this, and a password is being issued to you, right? Now you can access your account, your attendance account, your smart prof account, and your college access ID can be, used by using this particular domain. So you can have all the information using this. Suppose your password is being hacked by someone, or it is not working, then in that particular case you cannot access to this particular information. On the other hand, if we say that if it would have been certain your Gmail ID or your any other ID which carries very simple password, so your password can be hacked very easily and your information can be used, and you don't have much access to the particular information. So when we say that there is a private key and public key, that is a simple kind of that one document is being sent to you for your information and for your signature, and you can access your document only through your smart prof account. Otherwise you cannot log in. For example, when the classrooms have been created, so it has been told that you have to enter into the account through your GGS domain base ID. Otherwise, if you enter into by your Gmail account or something like, then I have to admit or allow you to enter into the class. Are you getting the system? So it means that it is protected, and there is some combination of the private key which is with the college, and there is a public key, that is your smart prof account. The combination of two will give you the access to a particular document, particular information, or we talk about the classroom created by us where you can enter directly. So you can understand the system of the digital signature in this particular manner. So the definition of digital signature generally come into exam. So you have to prepare meaning of digital signature, objective of digital signature, how it is being entered into, or what is the difference between the private key and the public key, how it is different from the electronic signature. So these things you have to understand. And even your friends have shared beautifully in the last presentation about the digital signature definition, about the difference between the digital signature and the electronic signature definition. So in these first two chapters, the first chapter is about the introduction of IT Act, chapter 25 of your book by Dr. Sushma Arora. So here you have to We talk about the that what is the role of the act, scope of the act, what are the exclusions, why the act is was required, what was the essential requirement or rationale behind the act or the objectives of the IT Act, and certain simple terms which we need to be familiar with. For example, electronic record. For example, appropriate government. What do we understand by the subscriber and all? And the second chapter, chapter 26, is of the digital signature. So we have to understand. We need to know the definition of the digital signature. Then we have to understand that how we authenticate the electronic record by using the digital signature, then the concept of writing the message using the hash function and encrypting the message and using the digital signature and sending the encrypted message by digital signature to the person to whom we wish to send, and the other person is going to verify the message by using the public key. So what do we understand by the private key, what do we understand by the public key, what is the difference between these two terms, and the lastly the difference between the digital signature and the electronic signature. So these topics you have to cover in the two chapters, and the next chapter, electronic governance and the appropriate government and the certifying authority, these we are going to discuss in the next class. So your friends have covered electronic governance and dispatch of time of dispatch of record already. So little bit fast we are going to discuss, and we'll discuss the doubts in case if any with respect to the same topics, right? So any query